Hello everyone, today I just wanted to show you some sort of odds and ends and interesting Sega collectibles I've gathered in the very short time that I've been collecting for, Sega stuff, Sega brand, magazines, whatever. And right now we're looking at 2 issues of the Dreamcast magazine. This is one of the official Dreamcast magazines in North America. This is something I would love to have a complete collection of eventually. Lots of great articles, lots of nostalgia, and what's interesting about this one, and especially this Japanese issue right here, is not only are there a ton of really just great articles and pictures and even mini strategy guides and things that are just wonderful to have, on top of that, it gives you a look at a couple games that were actually either completely canceled or were dropped from the Dreamcast lineup and later published on the PlayStation 2 or the Xbox or the GameCube. So a lot of really great stuff in some of these here. Next up are 2 even cooler magazines, 2 Japanese Sega Saturn magazines. I'm really enjoying the Saturn, and these are really awesome to have because the Saturn's lineup in Japan was exceptional. We only got a little over 300 games over here in North America, and they had over 1,500 released in Japan, tons of exclusives, all kinds of stuff, all kinds of Shin Megami Tensei stuff, great RPGs, just tons of great stuff. And these magazines are huge. Look how thick these are, and it's really just thick, nice paper. I love them. Full color. I mean, these are absolutely incredible. These are things that I can't believe these were just sort of the standard Sega Saturn magazines back in the day. They're wonderful to have. These are definitely my 2 favorite collectibles so far. I would love to get more of these magazines. I love all these retro gaming magazines. There's so much cool stuff in them. And it's interesting to compare things like this to a lot of modern day gaming magazines. I mean, not many have survived, but those that are still around, are nothing like this. Even ones in the early 2000s weren't quite like this. They weren't as big. The paper's not as nice a quality. And what's interesting with these especially is the only ads that are present in either of these are all for sort of Sega-related stuff. You're not going to see stuff for like insurance. You're not going to see different Geico commercial things here. You're not going to see soda being advertised. You're not going to see anything like that. It's anything in here is related to the Sega Saturn in some way, and it's just a wonderful piece of gaming history. I'm also a big fan of collecting different demo discs for older systems, especially ones that are amongst my favorites like the Dreamcast and Saturn and PS1, PS2. I love getting them because occasionally it'll give you some really cool pictures of old games that weren't in the final version. Differences between the playable demos or little demo videos compared to the final version are interesting to pick up, and there's still a great way of seeing what games are out there that you might like. They're an interesting piece of gaming history, and I absolutely love having these. And I have a bunch here for the Dreamcast, and then I also have some really good ones for the Saturn. The Panzer Dragoon demo there is really nice. Nights into Dreams. This one has a bunch of previews on it. It's mostly just bug though, and over here we have a version of the Sega Screams for the Sega Saturn. So a bunch of different demo discs here. I really like collecting those. Next we have a small set of Gashapon figures from Sakura Taisen, and this is a series I've really been getting into lately. I so far have 3 and 4 for the Dreamcast and 1 on the Sega Saturn. I obviously don't have 2 yet, or the Dreamcast versions of 1 and 2 or any of the spin-off games yet, but what I've played so far I really love enough that I've actually started collecting for the series and looking to get more Gashapon figures, more life-size action figures, whatever. Really enjoying this series so far. Last but certainly not least is a Sega of America first quarter retail looped video from the beginning of 2000. This is something that would be playing in video stores and video game stores, your Funko Lands, Electronics Boutique, GameStop, whatever. And this is a really cool piece of Sega history to own. It's something that, as a beginning Sega collector, I'm really proud to have. It has a bunch of just different commercials that we playing in the backgrounds and stores for all kinds of Dreamcast games that were coming out at the time. Sadly, it's a little too soon for something like Shenmue, but look here, you have Mach X, you have Crazy Taxi, Choo Choo Rocket, all kinds of great stuff. And it's just a fun little piece of memorabilia to have. And this kind of gives you a really good idea of the Sega stuff that I'm starting to look at collecting. I really like a lot of the nostalgic magazines, little ad videos like this, demo discs, action figures, really anything that's sort of interesting and quirky and collectible. Now this is an ad for an actually really underrated RPG on the Dreamcast that I'm planning to do a review of before the end of the summer. And you know, there's tons and tons of Sega games I'd like to go over during my summer of Sega, and I obviously won't be able to get to them all, but this is one I definitely want to get to before the end of the summer. And Zombie Revenge. Dreamcast was, again, sort of the perfect arcade console, and this is a great example of that.